and welcome everyone. My name is Diego and today I'm going to be teaching you how to create a vector illustration of a vintage robot on Adobe Illustrator. First of all, I'm going to place a sketch that I previously created. So I'm going to File, Place, I'm going to select the file, click on Place, and now I'm going to click on the upper left corner of the canvas. There we go. And now I'm going to mark this layer as template by double clicking on it, hitting template here, and I'm going to rename it as sketch. And now I'll create a new layer and I'm going to rename it as vectors. This is where I'll be working. I will be using just one layer. So as you can see, this sketch is very loose. You don't have to be perfect at this point. This is meant only to be a rough guide for your vectors. So feel free to play around and keep it loose. For the first part of this tutorial, we'll be using the rectangle tool and the ellipse tool mainly to create the shapes for this robot. Be sure to remove the fill for the shape here. You can select the fill and then hit this little slash icon to get rid of it. This will allow me to see what's underneath my vectors layer. Otherwise, I'll just be covering my sketch. So I'm going to start placing my rectangles here, more or less following the sketch, but not too closely. It's only a guide. As you can see, this shape has round corners on the original drawing. So let's take care of that. I'm going to take my direct selection tool and click and drag to select only the top portion of this rectangle. And I'll be clicking these little circles here. Those are the live corners. And I'll drag down and round the corners. Same thing here. I'm going to select this anchor point. I'm going to hit Shift to select the other one. Now both are selected and I'm going to drag up. Now both of them are rounded. Now for this, and this, I'm going to select the three of them by holding Shift while selecting, and I'm going to modify the roundness of them all at the same time. I'll hit Ctrl for the live corners to show up, and then I'm going to move it just a tiny bit. As you'll see, the same amount of roundness has been applied to all the shapes. This is very useful in case you have to be consistent with all the corners on your design. So here, as you'll see, we have a square shape instead of a triangle. So I'm going to select this shape, take my pen tool, and I'm going to hover over the anchor point that I don't want, and then I'll just click on it. As you'll see, it's been erased, and now this shape became a triangle. Now I'm going to use the live corners to round this shape a little bit. And since I'm rounding everything, I'm going to apply a slightly rounded corner to the bottom of the head. So as you can see, I'm taking care of just the left part of the robot because I'm going to copy and paste it to the other side once I'm done. So for the feet, I'm going to create a rectangle. I'm going to take this anchor point and round it up around there. And then I'll select this other anchor point and just delete it with the pen tool. Then I'll switch to this direct selection tool and give this corner a round end as well. So there we go. I'll adjust this position a bit. Okay, now let's take care of the eye. I'm going to take the ellipse tool, then hold Shift and click and drag. This will constrain the shape of the ellipse, so instead of making ellipses, they'll be perfect circles. Now I'll place my pointer on the center, and while holding Alt and Shift, I'm going to click and drag. This will create a circle from the center outwards. And I'll repeat the same for the third time. There we go. We now have 3 circles that are perfectly aligned. So now let's move on to the ear, so to say, of this character. I'm going to stand here, and while holding Alt, I'll click and drag. I'm not going to hold Shift this time, since I want this shape to be just an oval, not a perfect circle. Now I'll do a rectangle to delete the half that I don't want. So I'll select both the rectangle and the ellipse. And now I'll go to Window, Pathfinder, and I'm going to select -front. This will erase the part that the rectangle was covering. Now I'll take care of the mouth of the character. That will be this rectangle. I'm going to start here. The smart guides will tell me if I'm in the center. So while holding Alt, I'll click and drag to start from here. There we go. Now we have this nice rectangle sitting in the middle of the head. Now let's do the circles here. For that, I'm going to show you one cool trick. I'm going to do the first one, and then I'm going to select it. And now while holding Alt and Shift, I'm going to click and drag up. So, as you may know, Shift will constrain the movement and Alt will create a copy of the shape once I release it, instead of just moving the shape. Have that in mind, it's very useful. But that's not all. I can also select this last shape that I created and hit Ctrl D or Command D on the keyboard. This will duplicate the last movement. So, as you can see, I can keep hitting Ctrl D and keep creating more and more duplicates. This is very cool and very useful, but afterwards I'm going to show you a similar tool that's even more versatile and powerful. So, keep watching. So, I just deleted those 2 circles because I didn't want them, and now I'm going to do this line here by using the pen tool. I'll start from the center of this circle, then hold Shift to restrict the path, down to here and here to the center of this oval. There we go, his ear or antenna is now complete. I'm going to round this corner just a tiny bit to match the rest of the illustration. And now let's take care of the other shapes that are missing so far, like the hand and the chest. Let's zoom in. We're going to create a circle, place it there, and I will create another circle from the center. Now we have 2 circles, one on top of the other, but I want to erase that middle circle. I want a donut shape. So I'll select these 2 shapes and I'll hit exclude here on my Pathfinder window. Okay, there we go. Now we have the donut shape we wanted, but now I want to erase this bottom portion as well, as you can see on my sketch. So I'll just do a square here, rotate it a bit, and now I'll select both the square and the donut shape, and at my Pathfinder window I'll just hit -front. Now let's do this shape on the chest. You may think it's more complex, but it's really simple. Let's make a big rectangle here, and now we'll select the bottom anchor points. Now we round those corners up. Then we change to the ellipse tool. We sit here on the center and we hold Alt. We create an ellipse that's perfectly in the middle of this other shape. Now we select both the ellipse and the rectangle and click on -front. There we go. We may also select these 2 new corners and round them. Now at this point, I want to select everything that's on the left side. I'll click and drag while holding Shift to add to the selection. So now I have selected everything that's only on the left side of the character, and I'm going to hold Alt and Shift and then drag it to the right side. And now, of course, I want to mirror these new shapes. So I'll just right click, transform, reflect. Make sure that the axis is vertical and click OK. There we go. Now we'll just move it a bit while holding Shift 2. Now it's perfectly on place. Okay, now I'm going to color my shapes so far. In order to do that, I'm going to select a swatch that I previously downloaded. This is the material palette swatch, which is a palette that I got from Google. This is a resource that Google puts out to everyone so you can follow their material design style. It has some great basic colors, and it can be a good starting point if you're not ready yet to create your own color palettes. So I highly recommend it. Having said that, I'm going to fast forward a bit while I'm adding some basic color to this robot. Okay, we're back, and as you'll see, I've added some basic color to this robot. There are still some body parts left, like the arms and the legs, and I'm going to take care of those now. I intentionally left those for later, as I want to create them as lines instead of shapes. So I'm going to switch here by using this little arrow from fill to stroke. And I'm going to assign a color. Okay, let's do it. So I'll select the pen tool and I'll start drawing. And now I'm going to click and drag, and while I'm doing this, the handles will appear so we can create the curve. Around here will do. It doesn't have to be perfect, by all means. It just has to look right. And we're going to enlarge the stroke now. We're going to make it around 20 or maybe 30 points. Here, there we go. I'm going to relocate this point, okay. And now I'm going to select this line, hit Ctrl C and Ctrl F to paste in front. So now we have a duplicate that's perfectly in place. And we're going to click on dashed line for that one. So something changed, but you're not able to see it yet. Let's change the color so you can see what I just did. As you can see, the dashed lines creates this kind of stripes that goes nicely along the curved line. And on my original sketch, I was planning on having them. So there we have it. Now I'm going to click and drag to select both of these lines at the same time. And I'm going to go to Object, Group, so they are grouped together and it's easier for me to handle them. I'm going to copy them to the other side by holding Alt and Shift and dragging. And I'm going to reflect, of course, to mirror that shape. There we go. And I can even use this same group of lines for the legs. I'll rotate it a bit. This could be the left leg. Now let's create a copy for the other side. Perfect. So now I'm going to select the 4 limbs and I'm going to hit Ctrl X to cut and Ctrl B as in behind to send the shapes to the very back of the layer. Okay, so now I'm about to teach you the tool that I mentioned before. It's called the blend tool and it can do wonders. This is by far one of my favorite tools on Adobe Illustrator. So let's swap to fill now and let's change the color to an orange. As you'll see, if we disable the vectors layer on my original sketch, I plan to have some buttons here placed on the robot, on the head, on the chest and on the legs. Let's create those by using the blend tool. I'm going to create a circle here and I'm going to drag a copy here where I want the last circle to be. Now I'm going to select the first and the last. I'm going to Object, Blend, Make. And this will populate the empty space between the two objects to create the in-betweens. And now I'm going to Object, Blend, and I'm going to edit this by going to the Blend options. So select this. Let's go to Specified Steps, hit Preview. So right now we have 6 steps for a total of 8 circles. So I don't want those many circles. I want a little bit less. So I'm cycling through the numbers by hitting the up and down arrow keys on my keyboard instead of typing the numbers. So I think I only want 3 in-betweens. That looks okay. One cool thing you can do with this blend, for example, is this is still a blend, and anything that you do with this, with any of the 2 extremes, it will be reflected on the in-betweens. For example, if you move it, the in-betweens will move. If you change the color, the in-betweens will reflect the steps between these 2 colors. It will show you different shades from yellow to orange in this case. So this is also a great tool if you want to create your own color palettes, so have that in mind. For now, I'm going to just hit Ctrl Z to undo. I'll leave it there for now. I'm going to do the same thing here for the leg. I'm going to create 1 circle and the last one, and I'm going to create the blend now. Now this is too much, I just want 2 steps. There we go. I'm going to copy this to the other side now. And now, as you'll see on the head, we have 3 shapes: a small circle, a big oval, and one that's in between. So we're going to create this using the blend tool too. So I'm going to create an ellipse. I'm going to create a small circle here. And I'm going to select these 2 shapes and create the blend. So now I only want 1 step in between. I'll select that in the specified steps. Now I'm going to Object, Blend, and Expand because I want to edit these shapes individually. This is no longer a blend now. I can edit the middle one or move the other ones in the extremes and nothing will happen. So now I'm going to select the top one, hit Ctrl X to cut and Ctrl B as in behind to send it to the back. I'm going to move this one up a bit. Actually, I'm going to change the color to yellow. Okay, there we go. And I'm going to use the same blend tool to create this detail on the mouth, the teeth. So I'm going to select my line segment tool, change my fill to a stroke, and I'm going to make it cyan. So I'm going to create one line here and one line here. You cannot see them because they're the same color. Let's change it to a black for now. There we go. We have two lines, right? One on each extreme of the mouth. So let's create the blend. Now you just see a black rectangle. This is because it populated the space with so many lines that it actually looks like a solid shape. But let's go to the blend options and change that. You'll see that there are more than 100 lines there, but we only want maybe 3 or 4, so let's enter 3. This looks fine, but let's try with a few more. Okay, 5 looks great. There we go. Right now, I want to expand this blend. You'll see why in a moment. I'm going to delete the first and the last one, and I couldn't do that unless I expanded the blend. So now I'm going to change the colors here. And I'm going back to my stroke window, and I'm going to assign a 2-point thickness for the line. About the same weight as these other lines here, so it looks consistent. And I'm going to create these waves here also using the blend tool. I'm going to do the smallest one, and I'm going to do the largest one, and all the in-betweens will be populated by the blend tool. I definitely want more than one, so let's go back to the options. I'm going to hit preview so I can see and decide the number on the fly. About here looks okay. I'm going to copy this to the other side too, and I'm going to select both of these blends, hit Ctrl X and Ctrl B as in behind to send it to the very back of my layer. So now at this moment I want to create a background for this image. So I'm going to take my rectangle tool, I'm going to swap stroke to fill again, and I'm going to select a dark indigo color that I think will fit this background. There we go. Right now this shape is covering all of my illustration, so I'm going to hit Ctrl X and Ctrl B as in behind to send it to the very back. Okay. So one thing I want to do with these waves is to take the biggest one on both sides, and I want to change the color to the same color as my background. You'll see why in a moment. So I'll select the circle and recolor it to the same indigo that I used before. Okay. So look at this. This looks as if the waves are fading into the air. So very cool, this is what I aim for. So I'm very happy with the result. Okay, now I think I want to change also the color for the inner ones as well. Let's try that. Great, I like this one better. And now I'm going to create some extra detail to end this tutorial by using the pathfinders. For example, in the torso, I'm going to select the shape, hit Ctrl C and Ctrl F as in forward to place a duplicate that's exactly on the front of the original. And again Ctrl F to place a second duplicate. Why 2 duplicates? Well, that's because I want to merge those 2 new shapes into a new one with the pathfinder. So I'm going to take this one, I'm going to move it up a bit, and I'm going to select the other one that's behind. So now I'm going to my pathfinder window and I'm going to hit minus front. And now I have this crescent moon shape. So let's recolor it to a darker shade of cyan. So now we have this shadow underneath that gives some volume to the character. Now I'm going to quickly do the same for the head, but this time as a highlight. So I'll use a lighter color. So this is a quick and easy way to create some lights and shadows on your illustrations. Now I'm going to fast forward a bit while I do the same process to the entire illustration. Okay, the illustration is now complete. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Thank you for watching and see you next time.